You've probably seen a bunch of news reports on this $6,000 plus Social Security bonus, check, dividend, stimulus, whatever you want to call it. And is it true? There's a lot of information out there. So we're going to go over that today. And I'm going to tell you whether it was actually true, whether it's clickbait, supposedly why these people are getting it, why aren't you getting it, who's getting it, and all the rest of it. This is also a live Q&A as well. So I'm going to talk about this for about 10 minutes or so, and we'll go through it. And then I'm going to open it up to any questions. So if you have any questions about all things Social Security, retirement, survivor benefits, spouse benefits, disability, Medicare, Medicaid, make sure you type them in the chat there, and I will get to as many as I possibly can with the rest of the hour. Looks like we already got lots of questions. All right, and I also put a poll up as well before it, and the question was, did you get your extra check? And guess what? 7% said yes, they did get their extra check. So I guess that means that this is in fact correct. And guess what? 93% said they did not. This is actually, I guess, more of these people are watching my channel because actually how it works out is only 3% of retirees get this extra check. The rest of us, I don't qualify for it either. I never qualify for it. The rest of us, the other 97%, do not get this check. Okay, so it is not clickbait. There's always tons of clickbait out there about all kinds of stimulus, money, but this is actually a fact. Who gets it? Those people that worked in what's called non-covered employment. So they work for a government agency, usually a state, city, county, or they worked for the federal government and were hired way back before the 1980s. Because before the 1980s, federal government workers, even politicians, senators, and congresspeople, did not pay into Social Security. That changed under Reagan in the 1980s, and then they changed to a new system where federal employees, when I was a federal employee, I paid into Social Security. But there are some states and cities throughout the country that have decided not to play with the Social Security system, so they don't pay into the Social Security system in their main jobs. But these 3% did pay into Social Security. They, if they were, federal work, these were city workers, let's say they're, police officers, firefighters, teachers, state attorneys, politicians, or whatever the case may be. They, in their jobs at the government, they did not pay into Social Security. They paid into Medicare, but they did not pay into the Social Security part of FICA. But maybe they worked at part-time jobs. If they were a police officer, they, worked security on the weekends or something. Or before they were hired to those government organizations, they worked in some other place. So you have like a state attorney, while the person was going through law school, they worked and paid into Social Security. And then when they, became a state attorney, they stopped paying into Social Security. So they are entitled to Social Security benefits, but the reason they're getting this extra check is because of the calculations. And the regular viewers to my channel know this. They're probably tired of hearing it, but we probably have a bunch of new viewers here. And this is the news that you're not getting. All the news channels pretty much explain this incorrectly. I only see about 1 or 2% taking the time to explain it correctly. So there's a lot of, confusion out there. Okay. When you file for your Social Security benefits, this goes for everybody. Social Security determines your benefit amount by your AMI, your average indexed monthly earnings. So they look at your high 35 years of earnings, doesn't have to be consecutive. They look at all of it, your high 35 years of earnings. They don't look at your last 3 or your last 10 or something. Look at your entire life, your high 35 years of earnings, and then they index those for basically today's dollars. And so they take that average and they determine that, okay, throughout your life, you made on average X amount of money. And then they pull out this little chart, and let me show you. There's a lot of people don't know this, but different people get different amounts of money from Social Security. So if your averaged index monthly earnings throughout your life was about $3,900, about $4,000, you're going to get 50% of that. So your check is going to be about $2,000 a month because you paid into Social Security about, average index monthly, or your FICA wages that were, covered was about $4,000. So you're going to get $2,000, 50% of that. If your average monthly earnings throughout your life was $10,000, guess what? You're only going to get 35% return. So, and this has been the same since 1935, not exactly these calculations, but since 1935, since Social Security started, they have always given low-income workers a higher percentage than higher workers. Because they figured, since 1935, FDR says, well, if you've got a lot of money, you've been making a lot of money, you probably have some investments, you probably have some more, money set aside. So Social Security is the most successful anti-poverty program in American history. And one of the reasons is because they give a higher percentage to low-income workers. So if throughout your life, you only made an average of $1,000 a month, then you're going to get a 90% return. So you get $900, only 35% on this side. So it's completely different based on how much you paid throughout your life. The problem is for these workers, because their main jobs that they worked in the government wasn't covered, it was under a separate category. So here is that same, this is what, when, I worked at Social Security Administration, I've done this a million times. This is the SEQI. This is the summary earnings query of how much you paid into Social Security. So the top green part is, let's say, one of these 3% or these 7% that are joining us today. They worked a little bit sporadically and paid into Social Security. So they are 100% entitled to their Social Security benefits. Nobody's denying that they have the right to collect their Social Security benefits. Nobody says they don't. We just have an argument that says, should you receive a higher percentage as if you were poor throughout your life? So the top, when the average is about $1,000. So according to the chart, we're going to give them 90% rate of return, because they were poor throughout their life, on food stamps, digging out of the trash cans, whatever the case may be. They were having a very, very difficult time throughout their life. But wait a second. That's because on the bottom part, their wages weren't recorded. So those wages at the bottom were not included in the calculations. If they were included in the calculations and they were all joined together, these wages would look exactly like those wages. These 97% of workers, including firefighters and police officers and teachers, get 50%. These workers get 90% return. And that is why they had this windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset. But those are now out. So the windfall elimination provision, the Social Security Fairness Act that was signed by Joe Biden, passed by bipartisan support, supported by President Trump. It's very unusual to have politicians all joined together. So now these 3% are going to get a higher percentage than everybody else who worked exactly the same similar jobs. So if you have a teacher, firefighter, whatever that, averaged, $4,000 or $5,000, they're going to get maybe 60, 70, 80, 90%. All the rest of the 90%, 97% are going to receive 50%. So this group is going to get 10, 20, 30% more. So my question is to those other 97%, wouldn't you like a higher percentage? Why not you? If they get an extra 5, 10, 15, 20% of what they paid in, my argument is the other 97% should get a higher percentage as well. But so the politicians, rather than fix the old calculations the way they were done, rather than fix that and make it's super easy to fix, really, really easy to fix. But rather than fix it, they decided to play politicians and throw the baby out with the bathwater and say they're supporting Social Security and say they're protecting Social Security, expanding Social Security, which none of that is true. It actually diminishes Social Security because $200 billion more has to go out of the trust fund to pay these, 3%, a higher percentage than the other 97%. So if you got your $6,000 of that 7, 8, it looks like 8% now have got their extra, $6,000, then I guess more power to you. That's the law. And but the other 97% or 92% of people that are currently voting, you did not get your check, and that's why you did not get your check. So don't call Social Security. But here's the thing. There's going to be people that are missing this. If you were ever married to someone that worked in the government that did not pay into Social Security, one of those, those federal or state or city or county workers that was a, police officer, teacher, whatever. If you were ever married to them and you filed for spouse benefits or divorce spouse benefits or whatever the case may be, and at that time they said, you're not eligible for those benefits because your benefit amount is not less than half of theirs. So there's going to be a lot of people out there that's going to miss money. So you were married to someone, for at least 10 years, and you go file for benefits on your own record. And you say, hey, I was married to this person for 10 or 20 years. And the Social Security employee looks at it and says, yeah, you're eligible because you were married to the person for 10 years. You're not currently married. You filed for benefits on your own record, but your benefit amount is not less than half of theirs. And therefore, there's no money there. So you didn't file. Those people are going to lose money because now your ex benefit amount is going to be readjusted so they get that extra percentage. Now you might be entitled to money. You might be entitled to money. If you're already on that record, if you actually did file, then it should be automatic. But there's a lot of people that didn't, on a surviving spouse claim or a divorced spouse claim or whatever the case may be. They didn't file because they were told, yeah, that's a waste of time for you to file because there's no more money there. Your ex's, your deceased spouse's benefit was too low. That's because they had the windfall elimination provision, but now it's readjusted. So there's going to be a lot of people out there that miss money, that need that money. And that's what we do on this channel, is find money for people that earned it and need it, because it's not getting any easier out there. And unfortunately, Social Security is bare bones right now, and they don't have the ability. They're at a 50-year low in terms of staffing, so they don't have the ability to help people out. So this is what I'm doing in my semi-retirement. And so let's go ahead and switch into our live Q&A. And let me change up here. And by the way, my live Q&A, as usual, is sponsored by Chapter Medicare. So if you need it, this is also the you got 2 more weeks. This is the Ides of March, middle of March. There is an open enrollment period until March 31st. So if this is the deadline, if you have a Medicare Advantage plan, you forgot to check it, or you really need to check it, and whether you trust the person that helped you with it, and you're like, let me double check that person, make sure I get the right plan, you can reach out to Chapter, and they work in all 50 states, 100% free, and they have a great, they're basically the only ones that I know that really have a really great member success team. They help you after the fact, not just when you sign up. If you ever have an issue in the future, they help you out then. Okay. Let's go through the questions. Interesting that 7% got their check. I would expect that most of those are Russian trolls, or perhaps some who would hit the wrong button. No, they got their checks. Yeah, a lot of people got their checks. Yep, I don't know about a lot of people, but yeah. So the average, again, 3%. But they never sent me a letter or stating what the extra payment was that was received. It just said one-time payment. Yes, Karen, so you got your check. And what happens is when those calculations are done, once they push the button and they adjudicate, process the claim, then you get your check. And if it's direct deposit, you've already, got set up direct deposit, it happens the next night. And then the same time they push that button and process your claim, then it goes to the place that prints off the letters. And so they print off the letter and they put it in the envelope and they mail it. So usually it takes about a week after you actually get the money and to get the explanation. They really should do it the opposite way. But hey, people, forget about it. I don't care what the reason is, I get my money, so seeing is believing. Yeah. But unfortunately, Linda, you might not be part of the 97. You're with me. You're not part of the 97%. So, yeah. So you never worked for the government, a government organization that didn't pay Social Security, or you were married. You weren't married to someone. So, People fall for the stupid stuff that people post on the internet, then get mad when they didn't get it. This state of the country getting dismantled. How can people believe all this crap? And yeah, but this one there is, truth to it, but not for everybody. I talked about this several times, and I used to get nasty comments. Oh, this guy's a clickbait. He's a liar. It's like you have to listen to the rest of the video, and I tell you specifically that unfortunately you're not going to get it. I do argue, I'm one of the only ones out there that argue that says, hey, the us 97%, if they're going to give extra percentage to the 3%, we should get that extra percentage too. It's about a couple of million people that are going to get extra money. So the only ones that I got the check are firefighters, police officers, and teachers. Correct. Yep. And anybody that worked, janitors and attorneys that work for the state and stuff like that. So, I mean, could you imagine that? You've got like a state attorney who went to law school, made, $100,000 for 10 years, and then became the state attorney and made, $400,000. And now they're going to get like they're going to get a return on their Social Security as if they were low income workers, that they were on welfare all their life because, they made $100,000, but it was only for 10 years, and Social Security looks at the whole 35 years. So that state attorney is going to get, a kind of like a welfare, benefit. It's, politicians. When Social Security runs out, will everyone on the system be on the chopping block payment-wise? Yes, the way the Social Security Act is written right now, Social Security can only pay out what it receives in. So this is what it looks like as of right now. It's actually going to get a little worse. We're scheduled for cuts in 2034 with the Social Security Fairness Act. It's going to bring it back about 6 months to a year. So probably 2033, it's going to be cuts across the board. Everybody. There is no grandfathering in or anything like that. So you're looking at about 21, 22% because Social Security, they get X amount coming in every year, and they pay X amount out. And what covers the difference? The trust fund. So every year, probably pull about $100 billion out of the trust fund, AKA the savings that baby boomers built up for this purpose. But that trust fund is slowly diminishing. And in 2033, 2034, that trust fund is going to be gone. And then this much coming in, that much going out, 20, 21, 22, 23% gap. They're just going to have to cut benefits across the board. And there is a solution, but the powers that be don't like that solution because they will have to pay FICA tax like the rest of us schmoes. Let's see here. 2.5, not near enough. Crap, everything is crazy. High, not just eggs, my utilities. Okay, so you're talking about the 2.5 COLA increase for this year. Yeah, it's not a political type thing. So politicians, that's not, Biden's fault or Trump's fault, or, when it was 8.7, that, the politicians don't get involved in the calculations of COLA. That was taken out of the political sphere in the 1970s. In the 1970s, they just said, hey, this is going to be an automatic adjustment. The bean counters will calculate the inflation from one year to another and then do the COLA increase based on that. The way they do the calculation, I think, is incorrect, but that's been the way they do the calculations for a long time. So it's not a political thing. Whether there is inflation, that's whole politics. But how much the COLA is, that's not necessarily. All they need to do is lift the cap. Everyone pays off their entire income. Why should the wealthy too? And stop giving the extremely tax cuts. All problems solved. Yeah, that's must be a regular viewer there, but that's basically the number one solution right there. Is probably 99.9% of people out there watching. If you earn under for 2025, if you earn under $176,100, then you're paying FICA Social Security on every dollar you make. If once you make over that amount, if you make $200,000, $300,000, $3 million, $30 million, you don't. Your income is exempt after $176,000. So you're tax free. FICA Social Security tax free, and they're other tax free because they got really good. So if the people that made over $176,100 paid FICA tax like the rest of us, then yeah, Social Security would be around for decades and decades and decades more. But who makes the laws? Yeah, what check? Yeah, so we already talked about that. Dr. Weir, I received the bonus check. My military retirement check was subject to WEP at 40% because I took a county job that had separate retirement system. Yeah, I've never heard about a military WEP. Yeah, I think you might. Yeah, I don't think the military has a WEP like that. So the windfall elimination provision, that's completely different. It's only Social Security check. So yeah, the military does not have a WEP. My SSA account says active, no overpayments, and shows full amount coming on Wednesday. Can I believe this? I have aged 10 years worrying about this. Thank you. Yeah, if you're currently receiving benefits, it should be good. The problem now is people that are looking for benefits, that are missing benefits, that need help with their benefits. Their, Social Security, unfortunately, is not there to help because the entire agency is in chaos and they're losing people. They have already been at a 50-year low. So, but if you're currently receiving benefits, but you did the right thing, I would definitely go into your Social Security account, my Social Security, download all of your information, your earnings record throughout your life, how much you're currently getting, if it's a projection of, your estimate of the future, how much you're going to get in the future, make a hard copy of that. And that way, if there's any strange things that do happen with the system, you have a fallback. And people say, oh, you're just good. There was a case in Japan a few years ago when they switched from their Social Security system. When they switched from one to another, they lost 50 million records. And it took them 10 years to fix it. And the prime minister lost his job because it was a giant scandal. So yeah, I'm just cautionary tale. If you're not paranoid, then you have nothing to worry about. But yeah, I printed mine. I'm 76 and a retired teacher, collecting Social Security because I continued to work other jobs to pay into Social Security to get my 40 units. I get $291 a month for retirement. I have not received my anymore. Yeah, they said they're doing it now, so people started receiving their extra check, and the extra check. The reason they're getting that $6,000 plus is because Congress made that retroactive. It's House HR 82. They made it retroactive to January of 2024. So that's why people getting a lump sum. But they said, give it a little time. If you don't get your extra check and your increase in April, then call up and find out what's going on. Just stop. Most of us lost years of Social Security benefits that we paid into. You are so biased. Teachers are paid crap. Yeah, I agree. Teachers are paid crap. But you just did not get the extra percentage those years because of the windfall elimination provision. So yeah, it's amazing that the organization that pressed for getting rid of the windfall elimination for those people never really told their people what the provision is to eliminate the windfall. What windfall, and why was a windfall needed to be eliminated? It's amazing that So Social Security office said they did not hold back on my husband's Social Security. He passed in 2022, but they won't get back that far to let me have it on the Fairness Act. Yeah, no, it won't. It only go back to January 2024. Unless there's some type of other issue. But if you're just talking about the Social Security Fairness Act, yeah, it just goes back to them. I'm a 66-year-old widow living off my deceased husband's Social Security. Will I get this? There's a 97% chance of no. Unless your husband worked as a government employee in a governmental organization that did not pay into Social Security. So, but if not, then no, unfortunately. Let's see. I'm jumping around here. We got tons of questions, so I'm trying to get to as many as possible here. So I was married to a railroad engineer for 32 years. He lost his job at the railroad after 36 years of service, but I didn't get real retirement benefits. Yeah, the railroad has a completely separate system too. Anytime someone goes into the Social Security Administration and mentions they worked for the railroad, then Social Security has to call the railroad board and say, hey, do you have jurisdiction? Do we have jurisdiction? Yeah, it's a completely different system. Yvonne, I've made minimum wage my entire life, now on SSDI. Are you saying in the future the SSDI I receive will go down just so those that made a decent wage can get more? Yeah. It'll go. It is planning to going down again if Congress doesn't do something, and their planning right now is to just give it over to Wall Street, which has always been the plan since the 1980s for most. But if Congress doesn't do anything, which they should have done, Trump should have did it during his last term. He should do something now. Biden should have done something. Clinton should have done something. Obama should have done something. All the politicians for the last 40 years should have done something, but they have refused, and they just keep kicking the can down the road, and there's no more road. So yeah, unless Congress does something, then, but it's not the fault of those 3%. You'll get your benefits cut 6 months early because of that, but they were still going to get cut. So they tried to cut Social Security, and now we get checks. Don't believe it. Yeah, again, those are two different things. Yeah, a lot of people could conflate the two. Yeah, they are trying to cut Social Security, and 3% get checks. So those are not mutually exclusive. No USPS letter, no money, everyone that get through your head. SSA doesn't do anything without mailing you a letter ahead of time. No, that's incorrect. Explaining the actions that deviate from the normal course of action. No, that's incorrect. They push the button first, you get direct deposit, it goes out first, and then you get the letter about a week or so later. So if your address is correct. So how do I know? Because I've done it a million times. So Ed, you mentioned filing for deceased or divorced spouse benefits. What does this mean? Does this have to be filed for before personally filing when we take Social Security? Okay, so here, these are two different questions. Thanks, Lynn. So if you're filing for spouse benefits or divorce spouse benefits and that person is still living, you have to file for benefits on your own record first. And then if your full benefit amount is less than half of theirs, then you file for spouse benefits, auxiliary spouse benefits on their record. Spouse, divorce spouse, whatever the case may be. If you're talking about deceased, then you're talking about surviving spouse benefits, and you do not have to file for benefits on your own record. You can actually change. You can actually choose. So you can file for surviving spouse or the surviving divorce spouse benefits and get benefits on their record. Remember, you can file for surviving spouse benefits starting 60 years old. So you can file for benefits on their record. Don't touch yours, let yours increase. Or maybe depending on the numbers and your age and all that kind of stuff, maybe vice versa. File for benefits on your own record and don't touch your surviving benefits. So, and either of those, yes, in order to get the money started, yes, you have to file. Let's see here. Live in Florida. My application for Social Security is being reviewed in Alabama. Been over 30 days. Crickets. Should I go to my local office? Yeah, nowadays, a few weeks ago, I would have said, well, because Social Security is at a 50-year low in terms of staffing, it's been bad for a while, but now it's 10 times worse because of all the cuts. So the regional office in Florida is Florida is part of the Atlanta regional office. Well, it used to be a few weeks ago, but they've closed some of the regional offices. So I don't remember if the Atlanta regional office was closed. If it was closed, then your application just might be sitting there until they reassign it to another regional office. So so I would call your politician. It's ultimately they're the ones that are throwing chaos and anarchy into the whole system. And if you need your money, that's the problem. It's like, okay, we need to make Social Security more efficient, so we'll fire a whole bunch of people essentially. Okay. And then we'll make it more efficient later. No, that's, if you're going to make it more efficient, update the computer system, which Social Security has been asking for decades. Do this, that, or the other, make the whole system easier. And then once you make it more efficient and easier and, people get what they're they need and earned, then you can fire, I guess, a bunch of people because you don't need them anymore, but they're doing it all bass backwards. So just a tad bit frustrated. Sorry. Teaching in Arizona, my total earnings about 670,000. My friends who went to teach in Louisiana the same year is about 1.7. Now they get 90% Social Security Fairness Act, and I get 30 or 50% of my approximate. Possibly. Yeah, they could get up to 90%. Yes. And again, you could earn exactly the same amount as they do, but because of how much they worked, in and outside of the system, they could be receiving a 90% return, and you could be receiving, a 50% return. So I don't, the person that said I'm full of whatever, is that fair? So I called Chapter to get help getting my Part B coverage from Chapter was extremely helpful with the process. All right. Yeah. Awesome. Good. Actually, Chapter, to get the Part B, you have to call Social Security to sign up for Part A and Part B. But Chapter, kind of helps you through the process. And then once you get your Part B started, then call them back, and they will kind of help you with the Medicare plan, the Medicare supplement, and the Medicare or the Medicare Advantage. Regular viewers know I always recommend Medicare supplement plan, the Plan N or Plan G. Check those out first. So when you call Chapter, it says, hey, I live in this zip code in this state. Tell me about the difference between a Medicare supplement and an N and a G. And then they'll tell you, and a lot of people don't get it because it's a budget issue, but at least check it out first. And then if it's a budget issue, it just doesn't work for you, then check out Medicare Advantage, but always start with Medicare supplement. And again, this is the open enrollment period. You can switch your Medicare Advantage right now up until March 31st. If you switch it, then you get your new one will start April 1st. So you might be able to get some extra money out there, some extra benefits, get another doctor covered. Maybe you change to a different doctor and, you want to save some money otherwise. So Chapter review it, 100% review, 100% free. And then you can also, up until March 31st, you can actually switch back to original Medicare. If you just tired of your Medicare Advantage, you can get out of your Medicare Advantage plan, go back to original Medicare, and then get a Medicare supplement. You should, unless you've got a few $1 million in the bank, never get Part A and Part B alone, unless you got a whole bunch of money, or if you have like TRICARE, you're retired military, or if you have Medicaid. Even if you even have Medicaid, you might want to get something else. But in order to get a Medicare supplement plan in most states, you'll have to go through health underwriting. There are some exceptions, trial periods and stuff. The whole thing is just way too confusing. That's why, you need someone to help. And if they're helping for free, then that's always a beautiful thing. So I called for an appointment for survivor benefits and was told that there were no appointments available. Was someone just pulling my chain, or is it real? And what do I do? This is it. This is a cut in benefits. They say, we're not going to cut benefits. We're not going to touch Social Security, Medicare, but they're doing that. This is essentially a backdoor cut. So the people out there that, can afford to wait, a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months or something to get their benefits because there's no employees there to help out, okay, they're good. They don't care. But you got your mortgage to pay, you got your rent to pay, you need food. You can't wait 1, 2, 3, 4 months. So, this is unacceptable. And you can't do that online because survivor benefits a little more complicated than regular. You call the 800 number, the national one, 800-772-1213. So they might have closed down your local office, or, the people that help with that particular program. There's people in the office, but there's different programs, different specialists, and one can't do the other. Right now, they can be trained after, 4, 5, 6 months or so. But your office might be open, but they don't have any employees that deal with that. They just deal with the SSI, supplemental security income, or, whatever. So call the 800 number, Google your local office, see if you can get into your local office, tell them that, I can do a phone appointment for any other office that has someone. And they were the Doge, and the acting commissioner of Social Security, who was actually a Doge guy, actually tried to end the phone system. And then they backpedaled because we slapped them on the hand for that. But anyway, and then call your politician. because it's ultimately the politician's fault because all of this is happening. So reach out to them and say, hey, I have to pay mortgage. I want my surviving spouse benefits. What's going on? Help me. So, and hopefully they will, get going. Yeah, it's crazy. That $6,000 sounds like a bribe to not complain. I don't know about that. That was such a bad decision, windfall. I worked in 2 places. I should get paid from 2 places. Yeah. Again, but yeah, nobody's arguing you shouldn't. But should you get a higher percentage than everybody else that worked the same amount you did? That's the whole issue. People try to change the subject and say, "Well, I was a police officer. Why are you? I was a teacher. I was underpaid, and why are you discriminating against teachers?" No, we're not discriminating against 97%. Why are you discriminating against the 97% of teachers who are not getting a higher percentage? So anyway. Thank you for keeping us informed. I followed your suggestion in February regarding the Fairness Act. Husband passed away in 2018, but could not file for his Social Security because I was CRS. I now receive. Okay. Yeah. I'm an old Marine Corps sergeant. Even if I don't agree with the orders, as long as they're not illegal, I'm going to help you out. So I don't agree with it, but I helped people get that money. And so, yeah, looks like Kay was one of those people. So I don't agree with it, but that's the law. So that's what we do. How was Social Security able to know if public service work? Are the records showing this, or this is supplied by the IRS? I worked public sector jobs 3 times. However, it will not get the windfall. Yeah, it's basically I'm trying to pop up the let's see here. It's basically the chart I showed. Let's see this. Yeah. So when internally in the Social Security computer system, it shows on the bottom part and on the top part, it shows all the earnings you made and paid into Social Security. And on the bottom part, it shows all of the earnings that you made, but you did not pay into Social Security. And that yellow part at the bottom is also not only for those government employees, but if you made, this year, if you made $2 million, at the top, it will say $176,100. And then on the bottom, it will list all the other money you made that you didn't pay into Social Security. So that's how they know. So, all right, let's see here. No, you're the problem. Oh, okay, somebody just having an issue here. Is the clawback? Oh, let me change my graphics back. Is the clawback applied to when you made the money or when you file your taxes? Yeah, I'm not sure about clawback or anything. And remember, I don't do taxes. It only took 2 weeks to take the money out of my check every week. Now, when it comes to sending me money, they're dragging their feet. Yeah, that's unfortunately, yes. Sometimes that happens. All right, I'm 64 years old, permanent and total disabled vet, and currently receiving Social Security benefits. I applied for SSDI. I have not heard from the Social Security office yet. How will I be impacted by the new changes? Everybody's going to be impacted by the new changes in terms of if you're trying to get assistance. Then when I used to take disability claims, taking hundreds of thousands, at that time we used to tell people you'll get a decision within 3 to 6 months. Up until a couple of weeks ago, it was 6 to 9 months. Now all bets are off. So, but one good thing, I guess, is because you're a vet, if most of your medical records are at the VA, the Social Security system interacts with the VA a little bit easier. So they will be able to get the medical records quicker. So your case will be, it's still going to take forever, unfortunately. So, but, reach out to your politicians. Wow, let's put more people on the street, or maybe once you hit a certain age, you should have to go in a home. Yeah, Are you saying that because my firefighter husband died in 22, they said they did hold back on Social Security? I'm not entitled to anything that he should have been getting. He would have had to die in 24. No. That's so. Regardless of when he passed away, it's based. The calculation is based on his PIA, his primary insurance amount, the amount he would have received at his full retirement age. And if he received that non-covered pension, then his PIA would be adjusted to take away the higher percentage, the windfall. But now that windfall is being deleted. So, Sandy, if you never filed for benefits because they told you there's no extra money there because of his benefit amount, call Social Security and wait on hold for hours, unfortunately, and check the numbers again because and make sure when you call said, hey, I want to see if I'm entitled to any benefits on my deceased husband, and has his benefit amount been unwept, recalculated, and the extra percentage added back in there. If so, then say, okay, now that his benefit amount has been readjusted, am I now entitled to those benefits? And if they say yes, then you should be able to get those benefits back to January of 2024. So let's see. I take care of my grandmother. How about a spouse of a veteran? Do I need help her get the check? All right. So same type of situation with the grandmother. If she was married, no, but no, a spouse of a veteran, no. Veterans paid into Social Security. So not U.S. citizen. Well, the older veteran, yeah, pretty much all vets paid into Social Security. Going back, it depends how old she is. But yeah, I mean, she's really aged, then it might be a good idea to call just to double check. I'm not sure how old she is, but again, vets that worked, 1983 and after, even before that, but there are some weird situations there. Not U.S. citizen, resident, worked in U.S. for 15 years on a visa, commuting daily from Canada. At 61, got sick on SSDI now. What would happen to my SSDI once I get 65 in September? My retirement age is 67. Nothing. Nothing will happen. So you'll just keep on keeping on. One thing that will happen is once you reach 67, your disability benefits will switch to regular retirement benefits. The check amount will stay the same. You won't even notice the switch, but that's just, they stop taking out of the disability trust fund and start taking out of the retirement trust fund. So, but I was going to say, since you are reaching 65, if you have a Medicare Advantage, which most people under 65, that's all they can get if they're on disability is a Medicare Advantage, check to see if you want a Medicare supplement plan, because at 65, they can't deny you, they can't charge you extra, but they can't, no health underwriting or anything like that. But since you're living in Canada, you might be having health insurance from there. But if not, then yeah. Let's see. I'm just clicking randomly here. Sometimes I regret it, but anyway. But don't state and local government workers get a separate pension? Yes. And didn't they not pay FICA on their whole earnings? Correct. For those 3%, those 2 million or so people, correct. They get a separate pension. And if they worked in one of those non-covered entities, they did not pay Social Security FICA. They did pay Medicare. A lot of people miss that. So those those 3% out there, people say, well, I'm not entitled to Medicare because I didn't pay into it. No, you did pay into Medicare. You paid the FICA Medicare, but you did not pay the Social Security FICA. Yes. Brian, what's up, Brian? Okay, I already answered that one. If you get in, then no, it is true. If you don't, then it got lied to. No, I would probably not take that advice, Wallace. So I'll be nice to Wallace. That's my brother's name. So, if you didn't get it and you're entitled to it, you're eligible for it, then, there are people out there that it's going to be automatic and they get it and they're getting it now, 8% here today already got it, but there's people that are entitled to it, eligible for it, but they fall through the system. They forget to file for it or whatever the case may be. So if you don't get it and you think you're eligible for it because you did work for a non-covered entity or you were married to someone that worked in those non-covered entity, then you need to fight for it. So just don't sit idly by. Social Security is not sustainable as is. With 2.8 workers for one recipient, can smashing the cap work by itself? All right. I got to be honest, Don. Oh, Don Quixote. I like it. All right. Um, a few years ago, it 100% fixed it. But every year we rate, it fixes it less. But still, I think the last estimate is about 73% fixes it. So we just need to, tweak a couple other things. And you can, don't trust me, click on the description in YouTube. And in the description in YouTube, it has the Social Security actuaries, the big main bean counter guy. Hopefully he didn't get fired. But he's the guy that runs all the calculations. So in his little spreadsheet, it's anytime anybody comes up with some idea to save Social Security, he gets out his big calculator and he runs the calculations and say, oh yeah, that'll help 13% or 50%, or actually that'll make it worse. Yeah, you can look at it, and right now it's about 73% fix, which will add decades. So yes. Traditionally, you receive a letter first to confirm. Again, no, that is incorrect. Let's see, get some other questions. I really appreciate your webcasts. I need to get on notifications so I can see them from the start. Um, um, to I don't really tell people to click the little bell because I'm annoying, as my wife says. I do these things every single day, and if you see these bells pop up every day, and you just get tired and you unsubscribe. So watch it when you want to watch it. Don't watch it. So if you want to do the bell and you don't mind my face, I guess, popping up, I'm not sure how that works, but yeah, go for it, I guess. So. I can't seem to find any info about what it is that makes someone eligible for one of these checks the video is talking about. Yep, just once I finish here, this video will go on recording on my YouTube channel under the live tab, and just look at it, and then watch the first, was it about 10 minutes, and it'll explain it there. So. Oh, super chat, $10. Thank you very much. You appreciate it. Thank you. I truly appreciate y'all helping so many folks out. My SSA is okay. I like it. I absolutely needed to change my health insurance, and calling Chapter was the best thing ever. Yes, it will cost a bit more going up. All right. So they found you a better plan, but yeah, everything seems to be going up. But yeah, a lot of Medicare Advantage plans are zero premiums, but just don't look at that. Most people say, how can they offer Medicare Advantage zero premium? Because you already paid for it. All of those decades you paid into FICA, which includes the Medicare, the 1.45% you pay, and your employer pays 1.45%. And if you make a lot of money, you actually pay a little bit more. But for Medicare, that should be the same for Social Security. But anyway, see, we did that with Medicare. So there is no cap on Medicare. If you make $5 million, $50 million, and you actually pay taxes on it, then you pay Medicare on every dollar you make forever. You actually pay more. You pay after $250,000, you pay an extra 0.9%. So that's been in effect for years, and the world didn't end. Billionaires are still making more billions. So they say, well, but if we do that to Social Security, then it's not fair to, yeah. So that argument is, anyway. So the Medicare Advantage plans, they're zero premium because all that money you paid into FICA, Medicare throughout those years, once you sign up for a Medicare Advantage plan, that company goes to Washington with their little begging bowl, and they say, hey, Idaho Hooser paid into Medicare all those decades. Now he or she signed up with our company, give us that money. And the government gives that company X amount of money every year to take care of you. So you paid for it. So that's why I say check your Medicare Advantage plan on a yearly basis, when the new plans come out, and because you want to see it, you want to make sure you already paid for all that stuff. You paid for the vision and the dental and the hearing and the gym membership and whatever other kind of things they got. You paid for it. Get it. It's yours. So I got a letter about some lawsuit and money being told to give to recipient. Does that mean I get it, or was it standard letter to everyone? Yeah, I'm not sure what type of lawsuit that is. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about that. John Doe. I walked into the Social Security office and knew that it was a government scam with employees that slow walk everything. 1 year to get on SSI. It's a joke. Bitcoin, cold hard cash. Yeah. Yeah. SSI is the welfare based program. If you got money for Bitcoin, yeah, you probably weren't entitled to, SSI, because SSI is a supplemental security income. The welfare based program, low income, low resources. You can get that based on being disabled, or if you're 65 and older and low income, low resources. The max you can get on SSI this year is $967. All right, let's see here. A widower, what's up, Sand Surfing? A widower receiving widowed insurance benefits at age 63 can potentially reapply for a larger amount at 67 if the deceased record provides a higher benefit than the WIB amount. Potentially apply for really if the deceased record provides a higher benefit, the WIB amount. No, if you're already receiving benefits on that person's record, then that's it. You're receiving benefits on that person's record. However, if you didn't touch your own record, then yes, yeah, at any time you should, when you file for surviving spouse benefits, widow's benefits, the WIB, she got the acronym right. Awesome. When you file for surviving spouse benefits, always ask, okay, I'm not going to touch my own. How much is my own now right now? And they'll tell you. It says, okay, when is that going to be more if I delay, because it'll continue to increase until you hit 70 years old. When will that be more than my surviving spouse benefits? And they'll say, oh, when you hit 66 in 6 months, it'll be more. It says, okay, I'll call you back then and get that extra money. Or you'll say, oh, okay, well, it'll be even more when I hit 70, right? So another super chat, $4.99. Thank you. I thought I got Medicare. I thought Medicare was $185, but they raised mine to $259 because they used a tax return of 2023. How can I lower this? Okay, that is the IRMA, the income related monthly adjustment amount. So you get high wage earners, high income workers pay a higher Part B premium. That's been around for a long time. And it's based on your earnings from 2 years ago. So 2025 is based on earnings from two years ago. There is a logical reason why they do that. But anyway, if you have what's called a life-changing event, you have stopped working, where, you were making, $400,000 2 years ago, but you've since stopped, or there's some other type of life-changing event, then you can file an SSA 44, the life-changing event form, and they can reevaluate, and if they delete it, then you'll get your money back that you've already paid out, and from now on, it'll only be $185. Let's see here. We checked online for our account and benefits information. Everything still says active, but everything. Okay, yeah, so I already talked to that. Let's see here. I want to talk to manager. Then Ed come up to you and tells you to shut up and call your congressman. Yeah, that is the procedure. If you call the Social Security Administration and if you don't get satisfaction, then you ask to speak to a supervisor, an OS, operations supervisor, management. But they can only do what Congress allows them to do. And if there's nobody there, pretty much, then who's responsible? You have to understand the Social Security offices only do what the politicians tell them. The politicians make all of the policies, those 20,000 pages of policies. Sometimes they do a terrible job at it. And then Social Security is kind of left, if politicians did a better job, then, for instance, the HR 82, the Social Security Fairness Act, look at it. It's basically two sentences of instructions. That's it. And Social Security has to figure out all the other details themselves because politicians suck at writing laws, and they leave it to the bureaucrats. And there's these unelected bureaucrats making all these laws. Well, they have to because politicians don't do it. If politicians made all the details, but then if they made all the details, then it would never pass. So, yeah. What is it? Winston Churchill said, democracy is the worst system in the world, except for all the others. Okay, I already answered that one. All right. Please, everyone, still call your local lawmakers, state and federal. Yes, please, yes, reach out to your politician and, tell them, this is unacceptable. You paid for someone to pick up the phone at your local Social Security office. You paid for someone to help you navigate the bureaucracy and make sure you get everything you earned. That is what you paid into FICA all those decades for. But politicians are refusing to honor that contract. That's why I came out of retirement and started doing these crazy things. But I would like to go back into retirement. So once Social Security is all fixed, then you'll never see me again. A lot of people say, oh, God, that's great. 55-year-old female, sometimes my wife would say that. 55-year-old female on full disability for 5 years, but not on Plan B. What is the issue, if anything? Yeah. When you're 65 years old, you have to sign up for Part A or Part B. When you're on disability, after 2 years, you have to sign up for Part A and Part B, unless you have health insurance from work. If you're on disability, you probably don't have health insurance from work because you're on disability, or your spouse's work. So if you or your spouse at 65 or 2 years on disability, you or your spouse have disability from work, current employment, not COBRA or the Affordable Care Act or retirement plan or whatever, from current work, and that employer has 20 or more employees, then you do not have to get Part B. You can refuse it, save yourself the $185. So I'm thinking, Robert, maybe you declined Part B at that time, or you did it by accident, but you can sign up for Part B now. This is the general enrollment period, which lasts until March 31st. So call Social Security and tell them you want to sign up for Part B. You might get a penalty, because if you were supposed to sign up for Part B 5 years ago or 3 years ago, whatever, you're going to get a 10% penalty for every 12 months you did not have Part B. But at least you'll get Part B. And 10% of what? So it's 10% of $185. So if you have to pay the $185 plus you were a year late, you have to pay $185 plus $18.50. But then when you get Part B started up, call up chapter there and they'll help you out with all the rest of it and see what's going on. So, or you can call them up and they can, kind of give you a better idea of, maybe you do have Part B. Yeah, there's some people that they're on disability and they don't realize that they get Medicare after 2 years. And then they move or something like that, and they don't get their Part B card, they don't get their Medicare cards, and they don't realize that they have Medicare the entire time. Hopefully that's not you, because they have been taking out $185 from your check, But yeah, call chapter and they can look in the system. They have access to the Medicare system, and they can look to see if you actually do have Part A and Part B, and then they'll give you a little bit more, directions on how to get it all set up. Sue, what about the money borrowed, stolen, loaned from Social Security by Congress to bail out the government at some point since the 1980s? Yeah, on forward and never repaid, reimbursed to Social Security. Yeah, this is an internet political myth that politicians use to distract us. Oh, the money was stolen. It's all fake money and all this kind of stuff. No, the money is still there. It's what, $2.7 trillion. It's in treasury bonds. We're essentially loaning it to the government and they're paying us interest, what, $60 billion, $70 billion of interest in 2023. But no, it's all still there. It's there. It's just, we're taken out of it every month. So, if you're receiving Social Security check, about this year, probably about 7, 8, 9% of your check comes from that trust fund. So where did that money go? It's in your check. So if you believe that was stolen, it's not there, then take that 7, 8, 9% and donate it to your local, animal shelter or homeless shelter or something like that, because, you might think it's not there, but they will highly appreciate it. Has any other viewer had their income corrected by Social Security, but the increase in their benefits was hardly worth it? How did you get it adjusted? Yeah, that happens all the time. Basically, because Social Security, determines your benefit amount, as I pointed out, by the high 35 years of earnings. And if, so number one, if that's your real name, number one, great, awesome, excellent job on checking your earnings record and getting it fixed. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out to be a whole heck of a lot, but hey, a buck's a buck, right? So because they determined over your high 35 years, if you see you go like you went in there and checked your earnings record and say, hey, in 1992 I worked and here's my earnings, and you get it corrected and they add it in there and they recalculate it and they're like, oh, okay, based on your high 35 years, it gives you an extra buck or $5 or $10 or $30. Yeah, so you did the right thing, and unfortunately, it just wasn't a big benefit for you. But hey, it's your money. So, all right, I am over an hour, and Nancy, thank you for the fan character sending hearts with hands. Oh, thank you very much for the support. You're awesome. Based on that, let me do one more question here. I worked for the state corrections for 5 years in the early 90s. I am not yet receiving benefits on my account. Will I get any benefit later on now from not paying into Social Security for those 5 years? All right. Yeah. So the when you do it, because you're not receiving benefits, the whole windfall elimination provision and all that kind of stuff will never be taken into account. So those 5 years will not add in there. So you just might get, 1 or 2 or 3% higher than everybody else that has. Yeah. So, all right, let me do one more here. My wife gets 38% of my Social Security check. Should it be 50%? But she started at age 63. No, anytime you take benefits from Social Security, pretty much it's reduced, except for disability or something. But yeah, if she took it early, if she would have waited till her full retirement age, she would have received 50%. But she filed early, therefore that's reduced. So if I die first, will she get 100% of my check or a lesser amount? Good question, James. It depends how old she is. If she is her full retirement age at that time, then she will essentially receive your check. Survivor benefits, there's some weird calculations. It's also based on, if you took your benefits early, she might get a little bit extra than that. Or if you take your benefits later, those delayed retirement credits, she doesn't get credit for those delayed retirement credits as a spouse now, but surviving spouses do get those delayed retirement credits. So it really depends on when you took it. But she could conceivably receive up to 100%. Current spouses from a living, spouse, divorced spouse, get up to 50%. Surviving spouses get up to 100%. So, all right, that is it for today. And sorry I couldn't get to all the other questions, but I'll be back again tomorrow, or maybe sooner. All right, y'all have an awesome night, and please take care of each other.